It's just a great event. People are, happy to be out. It's beautiful weather in Chautauqua County. We said, in 6 more weeks we could have snow, so we like to, embrace the county. Just, getting out and, listening to some issues people have had. I've heard some people talking to the police chief and the fire chiefs. One of our legislators had a question about the Main Street Bridge. I gave him some information that I had been forwarded. So it's just a good time to get, when you're in an area, especially like in Jamestown, you talk about the issues that are here in Jamestown, and I think that's, the good thing. And my position that I've always felt is just getting the information to the people. A lot of people hear things or read things and, get to talk to the people that are actually doing the job, whether it's city council, the legislature. Andy Goodell's here, Cathy Young, George Borrello. So, you can really touch base with a lot of people and ask questions that, you might have, and they'll give you the answers you need. And I think that's what this is all about. There's a wide variety of people, and it's been a great event.
And, a lot of people, I think, when they look at, say, city council or the county legislature, they see it through maybe our cameras, and it's at an official formal meeting where we're talking to them, and they see you guys sitting at your desks and podiums, and it's almost intimidating to some. In this setting, it's very informal, very as if you're almost kind of hanging out in the backyard type.
Exactly. One of the things in kind of a relation, it was, one of the editorials in the Observer said, everything happens in our caucus. We do things behind closed doors. Well, in that same context, when you go to the Ledge meeting, just like you said, we're sitting there in desks and podiums and our backs are to people and everything is regimented and so forth. But, come to the committee meetings, come to city council. You'll see that that's where the work is done. A lot of times in committee meetings, especially I know with the county level, that's where everything is discussed and talked and deliberated and even sometimes argued. And, when people see us there, it's like, oh, all you do is rubber stamp. Well, because at that portion, we've already known, the committees report to us. We know the committee reports. We know what the definitions have been and what the decisions have been. So it's a matter of, just putting it all together and everybody voting together as opposed to the committee. But it is. And a night like tonight, it's easy to, kind of come out in it, without a shirt and tie on and talk to people, like you said, and, get to know people, one another. And, I don't think really, as the chairman, nobody comes up and approaches me at I don't even know what you call it, desk or podium or my loft on high. But, it's one of those, here they can come up and talk to you and you can tell, get to, ask some questions. And, I'm sure there's going to be people saying things that, maybe we don't want to hear, but that's what this is all about, listening to people and hearing their side and then, expressing our concerns and our, giving them the information we have.
And you look at the whole purpose of government, right? And obviously for some that is up for debate. But if you get down to the bones of it, people, especially in small towns where your vote really truly does matter, because these people make decisions that affect your neighborhood, at the end of the day, people voted you in to represent them. They're not always able to go to the committee meetings and to the legislature. I guess, as a county legislator, how do you communicate to your electorate? How do you get messages out there?
I try to get out and talk to as many people as I can. There's a diner, restaurant I go to in Lakewood, Skylar's, every morning, and, between myself, there's a Bustite Town Councilman, and, if somebody has a question, I sit and talk. The other day, it took me 45 minutes after breakfast to talk to somebody, and my wife understands, and we take two cars sometimes, or even Wegmans on a Sunday afternoon, from noon on but again, I take my phone and my wife and I go our separate ways just because there's so many people that you see, and to me, that's where I want to talk to people. My phone's always open. Call the house or call, get a hold of me and I'll gladly discuss. I like to talk as opposed to email or text because things get lost in translation. You don't hear somebody or see somebody or listen to their voice and their tone and their vernacular. So it's really important for me to get out and touch base with people, as much as I can and hear them, not just, read some things. And my biggest thing, people will laugh if they see this is, I don't consider myself a politician. I run government, and we all look at it that way. And, politics are the games that are played, whether it's behind the scenes or what have you. But I think a lot of us just want to get the business of running government done, making sure things are done the right way and making sure it's open. And I think, for the most part, that's what we try to do, with this legislature. It's not the arguing and the bickering of old. And not to say that there's that was a bad thing. That's just how things were done with a 25-person legislature. You know how hard it is to get consensus or to get a vote and a majority. So here, they would argue, well, you've got the supermajority. It's easy to say, but we still haven't been voting on party lines. There hasn't been a vote, maybe one in the last 2 years. It was strictly a party line vote. It's more, very open and letting everybody express and discuss. And that's the big thing. We have open dialogue. I don't look at anybody with a letter after their name. We sit down and we discuss things and we get that dialogue going. And I think that's critical. That's really important to me. When I see people, I think my family takes a back seat sometimes. That I'll talk to anybody. If they have a question, I'll sit and take the time. And I'd rather take the time and explain things because, as you know, whether it's something they see or they hear or they read, and depending on who it's been produced by or written by or whatever, it may or may not be totally correct, and it may be a perception. So my thing is just getting the information out, and I'll give them as much open dialogue that I can. And I try as much as possible to give a very, factual piece. I don't give them my spin. I just give them the facts and let them decide for themselves. They can walk away and say, yeah, he's full of baloney, but the most part, I just want them to realize that these are the facts I'm going to give you, and form your own decision. That's we all have brains. That's what they're there for, and I don't tend to push my values or my beliefs on anybody else. I give you the fact, and but a lot of times it's I didn't know that, and that's the neat thing is we are sometimes privy to different information or a little bit more detailed information than some people get. So it's always good to give that information to people and pass it on.
And certainly, hopefully, we'll see that dialogue tonight. PJ Wendell.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you.
What's happening here is very positive. It's very interactive, and I like it. I like it too. I like the fact that it's not. In the past, we have had town meetings. This is not the first town meeting we've had, but we've always had it in kind of an enclosed environment and maybe an auditorium or something like that. And you get a lot of concerns, but not a lot of solutions. And I think this is such a relaxed environment at this point that we're getting not just concerns given to us, but also ideas, right, about what kinds of things can help, right, which is really what you want, right, and I think that's what this process, I think, is why it's good, because we can all kind of get in each other's heads in a relaxed setting. And I think that's when ideas start to flow.
And do you think that people are kind of almost intimidated a little bit by going to city council meetings just because there's so much, formal process that has to take place, and in a way they do elect their officials to represent them.
Right.
So
right.
they trust you're doing what
right.
they would like.
Right.
And do you feel like sometimes people are intimidated by that?
I don't know. I don't know how people feel about it. I think we're there to do business, and so we have a mindset to get that business done at that point, especially in the voting session. And people want a little. I've heard concerns about dialogue in the voting session, but historically, we haven't done a lot of that. But I think people. I think this is the kind of setting that seems to be at this point. We'll see where it goes from here, I guess, at this point. And I think we're going to have. I think we're scheduling a city council meeting down at Chattacoin in September, and I think that itself will lend itself to this kind of process as well. I'm excited about it anyway, and that we've got a beautiful park down there now, and people can come from all over the city and talk. I think it'll be great. I just hope the weather, will hold up. But if it does, I believe the exchange of ideas, and which is really what I think is the most important thing, is that exchange of ideas, right? Explain to me what your issue is, and then tell me what kinds of ideas you think that would solve it. And I think if we all do that together, I think we can get somewhere here in Jamestown. I do believe that.
I would encourage them to vote, because oftentimes people think that their vote doesn't make a difference. It absolutely does. I can't tell you throughout history how many elections were decided by just one vote. But if you don't get activated, then you're not going to be able to make a difference. So I would say to people, always go out and exercise your constitutional right. That's one of the most sacred things that we have as Americans, is to choose our own leaders. I have traveled to other countries, places like Central America, that are dealing with grinding poverty. They've dealt with dictators, and they've dealt with situations where they weren't able to choose their own leaders, and they've lived under very oppressive governments. We need to make sure that we're exercising our rights, because that's what keeps us free.